Hi, my name is Arini Vlotman, and thank you for joining me once again in this video. So for those of you who know me, you would know that I am a life skills champion, and I'm especially passionate about EQ. And that's predominantly the subjects of my training, my coaching, and any of videos or articles or any content that I create. Today, I thought I would take the EQ side of things, but just give it a little bit of a twist. So, think about how we have learned and the things we've learned about, but to discover it and ourselves in a different way. And if you have read the title of this video, you'll see I mentioned the anti hero. And I first came across the anti hero when my son was old enough to start watching the comic movies, the Marvels, Avengers, Spider Man, Batman, all of those good things. And after being subjected to numerous conversations that I didn't actually want to be part of, I discovered that the anti-hero is a predominant characteristic or a character trope in lots of movies and franchises. So, for an example, the Harry Potter fans, you'd find Professor Severus Snape as an anti-hero. Scarlett O'Hara from Gone with the Wind, she's an anti-hero. The Hulk, for those of you who are superhero fans. There's Captain Jack Sparrow, for example, Batman, Catwoman. There are a number of them depending on what type of books you read. But the anti hero was first introduced into writing or into creative content in the early 1700s and was made popular, especially by Homer and Lord Byron, the poet. And they came across a different side of things. So, when you're watching a movie or reading a book, there's the villain, and then there's the hero or the heroine. There's the antagonist and the protagonist. There's the good guy and the bad guy. The anti hero falls somewhere in between, but is neither. And the anti hero can be described often as a character or person in a story that is slightly irritating. People love to hate them. They can either be disliked completely or people feel sympathy towards them. And they usually are the type of character that is self interested. However, they do work for the bigger picture. So they work for the best of the characters or the novel. And they usually come out in the end as the good guy, despite the way they got there. So the means are not so important to them. It's the end. However, the end is all about what they want, their self-interest. And I thought about this and I thought about my personal life and my professional life. And I mean, everybody is the bad guy in somebody's story, right? No matter how good you may be, somebody has perceived you as being the anti-hero in their story. And professionally, we have come across a lot of anti-heroes. Now hear me out, right? I think in the workplace that an anti-hero would probably be described as difficult to work with, not a team player, perhaps passive aggressive, or just completely aggressive, depending on who you're dealing with. However, they get the job done. So they may not play by the niceties of your environment, but they play by the rules. So they never go against the HR rules or the company policies, but they skirt that line between doing their job and getting along with people. And the reason I thought of this was the biggest gripe I hear from my clients, my coaching clients, or even in training, is when I'm trying to teach people a new technique. So I'm trying to get them to be more assertive or self-confidence or EQ, whatever it is. They always say, but this person never comes to the party. They don't want to hear about X, Y, and Z. They don't want to be involved in a conversation. They shut me off, or that's usually the line that the line of thought that I hear, and it's frustrating. And what I try and tell people, and this is because this has happened to me, is that you cannot change somebody else's behavior. You can change your own, right? You can change the way you think and the way you behave towards others. And you can try and change the way people behave towards you and how they treat you as an individual and a professional. But you can't change somebody else. If somebody in the workplace is there and does not want to take part in team building, what do? There's nothing that you can do. The company forces everybody to go on this team building exercise, and they are just there grumbling along. They do it because they don't have much of a choice, but they won't be happy about it. So those type of people are the type of people that we just have to accept as professionals. And you can, I promise you, as I'm saying this, you can probably think of at least 2 or 3 people off the top of your head that are the anti-heroes in your network, professionally, work, clients, in whatever scope it is. And these type of people are there, they get the job done, usually because it's for their best interests. They are getting paid to do it, but they don't care about everything else. They don't care about your feelings. They don't care about making the work environment better. They are there to get things done and leave. And that is okay. Not everybody aspires to be the type of person that thinks about those around them. And honestly, there are times where each of us probably have our best interests at heart. For me, if I find a process that is difficult and long, I will find the easiest way to do it to get my output. However, not at the detriment of somebody else. So I would compromise and think of other people's roles. An anti-hero will come in, usually change the modus operandi to suit them. And if there's nothing you can do about it, there's nothing that you can do about it. However, there are ways and means to deal with those type of people. Firstly, I always say, don't take it personally. Very rarely do the anti-heroes in our worlds, in the real world, actually mean anything by their tones and the way they interact with us on a daily basis. In their minds, they are at the workplace to do one particular thing, and that's to get their job done. What happens around that, they don't particularly care about, or they're not emotionally invested in. And that is important to them. So don't take it personally. Secondly, if they are breaching a line of professional conduct, so if they are treating you in a manner that is disrespectful or harmful to you as an individual, then you need to broach it with them. But very rarely do anti-heroes actually do that. So they will not, they do enjoy conflict, but they don't like conflict situations. And I know you get the people that are aggressive. So in every story, there's a villain. So you'll get the villains and you'll get the heroes, but not everybody can fall neatly into those tropes in real life, unfortunately. With us, with real human beings, there's a lot of nuances, and there's a lot of, it depends on where you are in the company, where you are in your professional life, where you are in your mental space. And that is what you have to consider when dealing with these anti-heroes. They may not care about you or your team or what's happening with you, but you yourself need to know whether they are impacting you, and identify these anti-heroes and decide how you're going to go about it. I personally feel that it is in my best interest to ignore those type of people. I'll walk along with you. We will get the job done. We will do our outputs. I will do it to the best of my ability and to my standards. You do it the way you want to do it. And if it means that we can't be friends, unfortunately, that's just the way it is. Right? So anti-heroes in the professional industry can be difficult to deal with, and they are there. But just think of them in a different light. Think of them as the Superman or the Batman. Apparently, there's a whole controversy about whether Batman is an anti-hero or not, but that's besides the point. think about them as the outskirts, those characters that just brush against your life and don't actually impact your life. They are there to help you get your job done. They are not there to make your life better or worse. So they're on that line, right? They are not contributors to your emotional well being or your mental well being, and probably not to your professional um, enhancement in any way. They are just there and they have to be tolerated. And there are lots of people that I know that go in to work, get their work done, and leave. It is not a space for them to be personal. Nobody knows them. They don't interact with people because work is a place for them to earn money, and they separate that from their personal lives. And that's okay. You are allowed as an individual to be or feel how you want to, as long as you don't impose your negativity on other people. And that's also a fine line. So don't take it personally. Identify those anti-heroes. So once you identify them, and I tell this to my clients all the time, is that once you stop letting people impact you negatively, the negativity will stop. So it's in your control. Are you going to let these people affect you in the workplace? The fact that you are on a team with somebody who doesn't even like your organization or like what they do or like their jobs or like life in general, there's nothing that you can do about that. So let it go and try and I've fallen into this trap where I've tried to help those people and I've tried to encourage them and I've tried to be positive and I've tried to um, coach them or even mentor them, but they don't want to be in that space. They don't feel that they need to be helped. It's my problem. I've made it my problem. So I need to step back and accept that the anti-hero is exactly what he or she wants to be. When they are ready, or if they feel that they need any change, they will find it in some way. Like I'm sure you have by watching this video or reading an article or going on training. Like I have when I realized that I wanted my professional life to change and I wanted to learn more about myself and more about dealing with people. If that doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. And anti-heroes play a role in our lives because, like I said, not everybody can be the star. Not everybody can be the high achiever. Not everybody can be the leader. Not everybody has to be a manager. Some people just come in, do the job, and leave. So when we consider the anti-heroes, think about where you are. And this is where I'm going to ask you to be a little bit of vulnerable. And I always do this when you are dealing with learning about the self, and EQ is all about the self. You need to question parts of yourself that you may not like. And that's the only way that you can improve is by confronting yourself and telling yourself, okay, Arini, this aspect of myself I do not like. How am I going to improve it? Or I've received feedback about this. How do I improve it? So think to yourself, could you be the anti-hero in somebody else's life? And I'm saying this because sometimes, and I'm sure you've seen this, you've had to give a message that's part of your job that is not well received or is not a positive message or is not something you actually want to do, but you have to do it, right? And it's often don't shoot the messenger kind of situation, but you don't have a choice. And I find, excuse me, a lot of managers are in that role. They have to give off negative feedback or messages to their staff that they don't want to and that they don't like themselves, but their role dictates that they have to do this. And you see them as your anti-hero. You are hearing things from them that you don't want to hear. And they are in a position or in a place that they don't have a choice. So we need to be understanding and a little bit sympathetic of those type of people or people who are placed in those positions, and look at yourself and ask yourself, am I the anti-hero to somebody that I work with? or perhaps somebody in your personal life, depending on your relationships. I mean, I'm sure our kids, for those of us who have children, see us as the anti-heroes. We're there, and we almost villainous, but and we're gonna get something done, even though you don't like it. It needs to be done, and that's basically the crux of the matter. And that's when you need to isolate the role from the person. So there's two anti-heroes. There's the type of person that just does not want to be there, is difficult, gets their job done and leaves. And then there's those type of people who are, you misconceived, or your perception of them is a little bit blurred from who they actually are because of the role that they play. And who are you to the staff around you? And I realized that I was an anti-hero a few years ago, to a few people that I worked with, because of the type of role that I had and because of what I had to do. And no matter how nicely I said it, no matter how I fluffed it up, the message was still the same, and it was not received well. And there was nothing that I could do about it. It was my job, and I had to do it. So I was not well liked. And that disturbed me until I realized that not everybody can be universally liked. Not everybody is going to consider you a friend. As long as I'm doing what I need to do to help you in your job, the way you take that message is up to you. That's what I'm saying. It all comes back to the self, right? That's what EQ is about. That's what personal development is about. It's realizing the people around you have different roles to play in your life. There's the villain, and I had a villain in my life a few years ago who was a manager, and he was a shouter and a screamer, and I couldn't handle him, and he was just not a nice person. And once I realized that that he was not a nice person to everybody, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to come in here, do my work, and leave. And then there's the heroes, the people that come in and make a difference to your life and help you. And then there's the anti-heroes that are just there to get the job done, most likely in self-interest, and off they go. So when we look a little bit at our lives and our professional lives, we each have a role to play, and those roles change and are numerous and depends on what you are doing. But always look at yourself as well as the person that you are dealing with in your professional life. Can I change this relationship? Do I want to change this relationship? And does the other person in the relationship want to change this relationship? There's only so much that you can do. There's only so much of power that you have, and you should be using that for yourself. I hope this little bit of a story helps you. Let me know if you feel that you have any anti-heroes in your life, or you are one yourself, like the example I gave. And please feel free to connect with me. I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook. I'm happy to communicate with you or engage with you. You can check out my website, www.arinivlotman.co.za, and I look forward to hearing from you. Remember to always be you.